Hi everybody, Sandra Duran Wilson here, and welcome to Mixed Media Soul Sparks, coming at you every week with new mixed media techniques, studio tips, and inspirational exercises. This week I want to share with you some of my favorite stencil tricks. And if you've never used stencils, well, prepare to become addicted to a new art product. I love using stencils, whether they're ones that I buy myself or that I make. But often you might find that you have like a textured surface, like something like this that has a lot of texture on it. And how are you going to get a perfect stencil technique on that? It's very tricky, but I'm going to show you how to do it. So let's get started here. And the key to doing this is using soft gel gloss. And I'm using a golden soft gel gloss, and I'm going to choose my paint color that I'm going to put over here. So I want to mix that up, and I'm going to make a very pale green turquoise. And I'm going to use phthalo green blue shade, just a tiny bit of it, and you'll see how far this phthalo goes, and a lot of white. So when I mix this together, here's another little trick. Take just a tiny bit of the paint into the white, and you see how far that goes. It's just a tiny drop. It's giving me the color that I really want. Just a little more. And now I've got that color mixed up. And this is the stencil I'm going to use. And in order to get it to fit over this area, I just do it on a diagonal. But if you look, you could really tell this is not sitting flush on the surface because there's texture. So what I'm going to do is bring in soft gel gloss. And make sure your knife is cleaned off well, so you don't get paint into your... And I'm just going to put it directly onto here and use the knife to spread it on top. Now I want you to notice this is the angle I'm holding the knife. I'm not holding it flat and I'm not holding it really high. I kind of got it at a slight angle. And you see how the stencil just went up a little bit when I pull that up? Try and keep your knife down on the surface. My stencil is really raised up over here, so I'm going to kind of stay away from that area and just bring it in here. So what the gel is doing is it's going underneath. It's kind of squishing out underneath the stencil. And as you remember from last time, the gel is white when it's wet, but it's going to dry clear. I'm just going to take a little extra, put it on here. And I want to make sure that I've got enough gel on there that when I come back in with my paint, that the paint is going to sit on the surface of that gel. So this is very important. This has to be wet. You don't want to go walk away. Don't go have a cup of coffee and then come back later. You got to stay with it here. So now I'm going to just pick up some of the paint onto my knife, and I'm going to spread this on top of this gel. And I don't go for these perfect stencil impressions, so if you want to just kind of do a hit and miss, I call it, just come over certain areas, and like I said, I'm avoiding that area because the stencil is raised up. Coming over here. And I'm not going back and forth like this, but I do see a couple of places where I know I need to bring the knife a little different direction. So rather than going this way, do it one way and then come back and come in this way. All right, so here's the big reveal. And it's not going to look perfect at first because we've got all of the gel underneath there, but this is going to dry, and it's going to dry clear. And then this is going to really stand up, and you'll see these patterns with that bright orange in between. So you want to think of patterns or you want to think rather of colors that are going to stand out. So you don't want to use two colors that are too similar. You want something that's going to show off the background color. But I got another little tip for you here, because this stencil needs to be cleaned immediately. And rather than wiping all of this nice paint and gel off, I always like to keep an extra piece of paper around, and it could even be a deli sheet to clean this off onto. So I'm going to take this, put it on top of the deli sheet, and just take my knife and clean off the stencil, the extra paint. It's not getting wasted. And if you do this like on a piece of paper or another panel or canvas, I call these my accidental masterpieces, because you're going to end up trying things that you wouldn't normally try on your precious painting. And now I've gotten most of the paint off. I still want to take this over to the sink and wash it off, because if the gel dries on here, it makes it really hard to use the stencil again. So that is how to get a perfect stencil impression on top of a textured surface. Make sure that you use a gloss gel, because a matte gel is going to dry matte. You want something glossy that's going to be clear. You put that on, immediately you put your paint mixture. You could even mix a little extra gel into your paint mixture just to make sure it's the right viscosity, and then spread that over and pull your stencil off and you're good to go. So this next stencil trick I want to share with you is one of my favorites. I call it a stencil erase. Now the paint on here has been on here for a long time. I have a lot of these panels around, which I've had from doing teaching demos and whatnot. And so there are many layers of paint, and it's been dry for a very long time. But here's the great trick, is that you can use isopropyl alcohol to remove dry acrylic. And when you do it through a stencil, you get the pattern. So you can see that I started to do that in one area. Let me see if I don't even have to match it up again. I'll just put that there. And you do want to hold the stencil in place. I spray the alcohol on the paper towel, and rather than the painting, and I'm just holding the stencil in place and rubbing down, and you can see the paint is coming off. And you can do as much of an impression or a little as you like. So it wants to kind of stick there. But I'm starting to get the design, and I can keep going with that as much or as little as I want. If I wanted to then switch up and have a smaller design going up there, I just move the stencil and continue the same process. So I really love this technique. It adds like a mystery to the painting that people might look at it and go, how did you do that? That's what I love, are those little secret tips and tricks. Keeps people wondering. It's the mystery of mixed media. So that is a great quick way to get more texture. I call it implied texture in your painting because it's smooth. It's not like ridges, and it's very helpful if you have a few different colors below there. So you can see I'm getting this variation of colors. So stencil erase with a stencil and 70% isopropyl alcohol. Join the community and share your creations on social. use the hashtag MixedMediaSoulSparks. I look forward to seeing your comments in the comment section.